exciting. Chris Wittyngham is on the Toyota of Hollywood hotline. Wittyngham is a soccer broadcaster for CBS and MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. Inter Miami is back in action Sunday night soccer, as they host Orlando City, a little rivalry match at Chase Stadium. Kickoff 7 p.m. on Apple TV. And Wittynham's going to be on the call this Saturday for Atlanta United against Philadelphia on MLS Season Pass, 7:30. And Witty will be on the call Sunday, Napoli, trying to win the Italian League title. Solana, you know who they're playing?
I don't. Is it the Serie A or is it the actual? Oh,
I try and say the Italian league so as to not overcomplicate things for Huck. But yes, there are 2 victories away from winning Serie A. They could potentially win it this Sunday if they win and Inter Milan lose. So
all Parmesan, and that is Sunday, 2:45.
That region, Parma, is actually the home of Parmesan cheese.
So, I imagine that it would be one of the finest cheeses. I love Parmesan cheese. You give me Parmesan cheese on anything, I am good to go.
Do you take the extra? Cheese? Do you take the extra when they come around when you go for pasta?
Yes, I will take extra Parmesan, even if it's a cheese-based pasta. I will take extra Parmesan, and if you give me Parmesan shavings, I will give you a little caveat here: Parmesan Reggiano, even better than Parmesan. But you give me Parmesan shavings on a Caesar salad, good night, Irene. It doesn't get much better than that. Witty, we were talking about this. I asked a lot of this earlier because you had told me Inter Miami, they've only won one of their last 6 games in all competitions. So is that reason for alarm, or is this one of those things where you go, hey, they'll turn it a long season. You got tournament games in between. They'll turn it on when they need to.
I think it is cause for some concern. I think there is some real worry that the particularly defensive issues that they have are not going to be solved. I think they need to control games with possession, and they're struggling to do so. I think the players that they've brought in, particularly in that defense, on the right side of that defense, Maxi Falcon and Marcelo Weigant, or whoever plays on that right side, are not performing to the level. And so I think there is some real concerns that they will struggle to keep clean sheets. They will struggle to defend well enough in games for their brilliant attack, we presume, when it's firing at full. They scored 3 goals last night in San Jose, but they gave up 3 goals last night in San Jose, and it's because they have so many issues defensively. The goalkeeper as well, 39-year-old Oscar Ustadi, I'm not certain anyone had the idea of him being the regular starter game in and game out, and so I do think there are some reasons for concern for this team, which is wild because they have the greatest player in the history of soccer. It is just so interesting that it is a league that, in theory, he should dominate and they should dominate, but there is something particular about it where it's just not that easy.
Are they favorites though to win it? Like I don't know. Like I don't know what the expectations are with them. When we say is there trouble brewing, is the only barometer of whether it worked or not if they have a championship.
I think so. I think that is the level for this team. They have Lionel Messi. They have Jordi Alba, who, by the way, signed a contract extension today through 2027, which I think is a really interesting sign for whether or not the rest of the key players in the team are going to be signing contract extensions. But yeah, I do think that it is a real concern here that they have already let one trophy go this season, the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We went to the second leg of the semifinal. They got played off the park by Vancouver. That was one that, at the very least, you want to be contesting the final against one of the giants in Mexico.
Brownies, though. How good were the Brownies?
Yeah. You got to go back. You got to go back for the Brownies.
Yeah, I didn't realize till I read the promo here for Inter Miami that they're home Sunday night. They're home Sunday night?
They're home Sunday night. Yeah.
100% going for the Brownies, unless the Panthers play. But 100% going for the Brownies.
Yeah, you love the club level food, didn't you?
Oh my God, the Scarn there, Scarn. I'm thinking of Michael Scarn from The Office. The Scran there,
club level, unbelievable.
Holy mackerel!
But to go back to your original question, they are still the favorites to win MLS Cup. I'm looking at the odds right now on DraftKings; they're plus 450 to win the league still. And even though they're going through this down period, but there is an expectation that they deliver a high level performance in every competition that they're in. They still have, I guess, in theory, the MLS regular season, the Club World Cup, and the MLS Cup playoffs, and the Leagues Cup still to play. So they're still in it for 4 trophies, and they will expect to win 1, if not 2, of those competitions, maybe even more, because they are the best team in every, at the very least, MLS competition that they enter into. And I don't think that they'll want to embarrass themselves at this Club World Cup that's coming here in the summer. They'll be playing at Hard Rock Stadium for the first time for that opening game. There'll be 60,000 people there to watch Inter Miami, and I think they'll want to give a good account of themselves. So they have a lot to figure out before they get to the business end of the season.
Is it figuring it out, though, Witty, or is it just the reality that, like, you talk about defensively, they're just lacking something, but I think it has more to do in the midfield where there's just no support outside of Sergio Busquets when there is pressing from the other team. Suarez hasn't been available. He's not even injured. He's at a family member's wedding in Europe. So he hasn't played the last couple games.
How about that's lasted 2 games?
Listen, I love my brother-in-law, but not that much, Nick. Sorry. Like you're seeing it when especially games kind of drag a little bit. It's physical brand because it's Inter Miami, it's Messi. The games are being played on their side of the field. They have no possession. They're not dominating possession, I should say, in the final third of other teams, which is what they were doing last year at times. They haven't done that. They've given up 17 goals, Woody, in the last 6 games. I don't think Maxi Falcon is to blame. You know what I mean? Like, not because he's Uruguayan. I don't think it's as simple as the 4 in the back aren't playing well. I think outside of Busquets, who is kind of a little older, doesn't have the physical nature that he used to, like there's nobody in the midfield to help get the ball to Messi up top.
Right, which is such a specific thing that Busquets does, right? And you're absolutely right about that lack of physicality being a problem. It was the concern when he signed. I remember when he first signed, I was like, ooh, I remember there was a time where Busquets was coming without Messi, Alba, and Suarez, and it was just going to be Busquets in the middle. It's like, there's a real chance that he gets overrun in this league, because the one thing that you can fault MLS for any number of things, physicality is not one of them. If you are not a top-level athlete, there is a real chance you get overrun, and I agree with you, and I think that is an overall structural problem with the team, not even just necessarily, as you say, about Busquets or kind of the individual pieces. There is, I think, a lack of team speed, which is something that you don't often see in MLS. A lot of MLS teams have incredible pace, particularly in wide areas. I don't think Miami is particularly quick. And you're solving for structural issues by playing 3 or 4 players over the age of 30 that aren't terribly good defensively anymore. So Messi is not going to do the running. Suarez isn't going to do the running. Busquets is trying his novel best. Alba vacates his position a lot to go forward. And so there is just sort of an inherent lack of balance in the team, and you make up for it with 2 things. One is, I think, control of the ball. As you're saying, you're not getting control of the ball. But the second thing is just sheer overwhelming talent. And Messi and Busquets, Suarez and Alba are just better than you, and they're going to create enough chances to score enough goals, and you will be overwhelmed. And I think a year and a half, 2 years into this project, I think the other teams in MLS are starting to figure out the answers of how to play this team and aren't quite approaching the games with quite as much fear. You see a few teams still, like particularly New York Red Bulls, that just can't seem to figure it out. But every team just kind of go, all right, this is Miami. This is the next opponent that we're playing. Now, oh my God, we're playing Messi. Oh my God. Even though it was kind of funny, this was Messi's first trip to San Jose last night. Did you see the video, Hawk, of him looking like the Pope? Looking like he was on a balcony at a hotel room in San Jose. They were in like downtown San Jose.
I saw when they got into San Jose, the hotel was mobbed with people surrounding where the bus.
So in that scene, he like walked. There's like a balcony in the hotel room that he was staying at, and Messi was kind enough to walk outside and wave towards the people. So it was insane. There was thousands of people on this hotel room watching him walk out onto the. It was very papal in that regard.
How popular would MLS be in Miami in 2025? I know we have examples of MLS being popular, but not to this level. How popular would the Miami MLS team be in 2025 if there was no Leo Messi and no, plethora of superstar talent? If it was just an ordinary MLS team?
I think we saw that a few years ago before they arrived, the first half of 2023, when not only they didn't have star power, they were terrible. They were bottom of the league. They were last place in the Eastern Conference. And I mean, they had their loyal 12 to 13,000 people that showed up at every game. And I think like those diehards are a real part of the community that obviously love their football. I think South Florida is a community that has an incredible diversity. Obviously, I don't need to tell anyone listening to this, but a lot of where people come from are football countries. It's South American countries. And so there are people that love going to that stadium regardless of who's playing, but to register, to get any kind of attention, and also to deliver on what Miami can be, because on top of the fact that this organization has managed to do it, there is a remarkable interest from players towards Miami, particularly from Europe. This is probably the number one vacation destination for top-level European footballers. It was always on for Miami to be able to deliver this. So it was only just a matter of who you chose. At the beginning, I'm not certain that they chose amazingly, but now, I mean, this is just different level. And then I also think, too, you're talking about a community in North Broward at the beginning, and starting next season, it will be a community in the heart of Miami-Dade, which I think will be a completely different thing.
It should even enlarge it, right?
It should, in theory. I mean, I think a lot of people thought that would happen with the Marlins, and that hasn't quite proven to bear.
It's not automatic.
It's automatic.
But you're putting Shohei Ohtani on the Marlins,
right,
and saying, yeah, like, hey,
every single game, right? Every single home game, come see them.
They're going to show up.
The thing that I find curious is sort of the succession plan. They are, it would appear, going really well towards signing Messi and company to an extension. So for at least the first year of the stadium, if not the first 2 years. But what happens after that is, I think, an interesting proposition, because I think you've set a standard so high, almost impossibly high, that they have to keep doing this. But I do wonder what happens next. But for the moment,
isn't that the problem that the Heat are in, Solana? Like, you put together the big three. So you sign Jimmy Butler, ostensibly one of the whales who was available at that time, and it's not enough. And then you're in a conversation, you're very close to Dame Lillard, you don't get him, it's not enough. And even if you go out and get someone, it's not going to be the big three. And so I don't think you can ever, I mean, they'll never be able to repeat the Messi era, but I don't think the Heat will ever be able to repeat the big three era. I'm just talking about star power. I'm not talking about success, but that's what happens when you set the bar that high that early.
I'll be honest, sorry, Solana, to jump in, but my Heat fandom has dropped off a bit, because I sort of feel like I've completed it. That like when you play the video game and you beat the final boss, all right, there's no video game left to play. Let's play another video game. Because the big three era, what level of basketball fandom will come even close? What level of every game, the significance and competing for championships and the media attention, it doesn't get any better than that. And I don't think, and this is perhaps unfair to the Heat, but I don't think that they can. And I think in some ways they would like to almost shed that reputation based off of how they act. They act like a team, almost like a small market team. They want a team build like Oklahoma City or Memphis, and they're stuck with this reputation where they have to trade for a star, and they haven't done it since Jimmy Butler. And I think even Jimmy Butler was, kind of a trade that you make at a discount. It was a first-round pick in Hassan Whiteside. So I think that I feel bad at times for the Heat for the standard that they've set for themselves.
You haven't completed your fandom. On the contrary, like, you have to go through this right now. You have to go through the mud in order to come out on the other end when you do.
I did though in 2007 when they won 15 games and fired Pat Riley, and Ron Rothstein was coaching one of the worst.
Ricky Davis era.
Right, exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, Witty, we all remember you putting together charts of cap back in your 7-9 to the ticket days. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you
no one understood that, by the way. He was tweeting out these charts. Wouldn't you do that for hurricanes too? Weren't you doing that for actual hurricanes?
I did it for playoff scenarios for the Heat. And then I did it for something else.
I swear it was for hurricanes. Weren't you like tracking them via?
Oh no, I have a Twitter list for hurricanes. I actually think that's a very valuable resource.
It's a good list. It's
as a matter of fact, I think that the Twitter algorithm has spat that list out to a lot. During hurricanes. So that list has like 11,000 followers on Twitter, because it is that valuable of a resource.
You're like a hurricane expert on Twitter.
Basically, yeah. All of the local outlets and the weather sources and all that, they're all there.
Speaking of nonsense, do you know why Chicago is called the Midwest when it's closer to being the Mideast?
No, branding. I don't know. Branding? I don't know. Who
would brand it the Midwest?
Well, you're trying to distinguish yourself from New York City and Philly and what I would call the Acela corridor.
The Mideast.
It sounds like a new frontier. There's so much that happens on the East. They're like, it's sort of the beginning.
It is kind of that is what we have found out. And this all stems from Solana thinking New Orleans was a West Coast city, which is bizarre.
Yeah. But that is because if you look at even like, for example, sports, they're talking about adding 2 new teams in the NBA in Seattle and Las Vegas. And I heard the other day that there's going to be a real fight for which NBA team moves from the West to the East, because there is such a talent imbalance that some team is going to be desperate to get out of the West, and presumably there will be, cartographers that come out and say Minnesota is the furthest east of the teams in the West, but there are a bunch of teams in the Western Conference that are going to be appealing.
There is no scenario where you can try to explain away Solana believing New Orleans to be a West Coast.
They're in the Western Conference of the NBA.
They're in the Western Conference. Checkmate.
They're in the Western Conference.
To think that they're a West Coast city is mind-numbingly ridiculous.
Are they in the Western Conference or are they in the Eastern Conference? I don't understand what you're doing here.
You didn't ask if they're a Western Conference city. You said they're a West Coast city, i.e.
Western Conference.
San Jose, Seattle.
Coast is a tough one, Solana. It's on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. Maybe not the Pacific Ocean.
City. Yeah, yes. But like anything west of Atlanta is
West Coast?
West Coast. Yeah, we're being honest.
Well, no. No, there's nothing to do with honesty there. You know the Dolphins, by the way, Wittyngham, do not travel further east, aside from the Madrid game. Do not travel further east than Indianapolis this coming season. They do not have a single game other than the one in Madrid that's not in Eastern time zone.
So presumably they play the AFC West opponent at home?
I mean, look at the way you extrapolated that so quickly.
Right, because you play one division in the AFC and one division in the NFC, and then you play the commensurate team in the other two AFC divisions. So you're playing the AFC West team at home then.
Solana, do you know what a cartographer is?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that I pulled that.
It was an amazing pull, and I was just curious if Solana had any idea what a cartographer was.
Is that somebody who draws maps?
Yeah, very good.
Draws and reads maps, yeah.
Yeah, very good. That surprises me. From a guy who thought New Orleans was a West Coast city to know what a cartographer is incongruous.
I hate to interject, but I have one Inter-Miami point I'd like to make before we go.
Please.
If we can. So I don't know if you saw over the weekend, Miami lost to Minnesota United by 4-1, and the Minnesota United Twitter and social media admins got to work on making fun of Miami. So they tweeted out just simply Pink Phony Club instead of Pink Pony Club.
That's clever.
And they put out, so the TIFO, which is like the big banner that the supporters group show before the game, they have a banner and it says, history over hype, culture over cash. And hype and cash are in pink, while the rest are in Minnesota light blue.
Built, not bought, essentially.
Right.
We went through that for a long time.
I have to be honest. It really bothers me. It bothers me on behalf of Miami as a Miami resident that we are such an easy target for criticisms like that. So history, Minnesota United as a club was founded in MLS in 2017. Miami came in 2020. There is a broader history of soccer in Minnesota, but in Miami, that goes back to the Fort Lauderdale Strikers in the mid to late 1970s. It is a community that, and you want to talk about culture. Culture in South Florida is incredibly soccer-based. This is a city that watches the World Cup more than any other. And so I'm slightly annoyed because last year as well, when Miami visited New York City, their supporters group put out a banner that basically called Miami plastic, and they put Plastic Club and they put the Miami colors over a Barbie. And I'm quite annoyed at this notion that Miami's sort of a Johnny-come-lately, just here for the fun of Messi and company, and there isn't actually a soccer culture or history down here. I am perplexed at this notion that the Miami Fusion didn't exist, that the Fort Lauderdale Strikers didn't exist, that this community gathers around soccer in a real way. And I am sort of sick at the number of people that think that just because Miami is an easy target and they're the biggest club in MLS by interest, if not certainly by, titles won or history or whatever, but this is a club that sort of has a target on its back. And I think that the shots that are taken at it are cheap. And I think if you're just going to say, we hate you guys because everyone talks about you and, Miami is the only club in MLS that gets it, fair enough. But this thing that Miami doesn't have any soccer history or any soccer culture or community, I'm a little annoyed by it, if I'm being honest.
We were rooting for Valderrama before that mall was even built in Minnesota.
Agreed. Carlos, El Pibe Valderrama,
right,
Ray Hudson coaching the Supporter Shield winning 2001 Miami
Ridiculous.
Fusion.
Absolutely ridiculous. Well, I stand with
I feel like Miami needed a defense mounted against it, and it is such an because there are plenty of people that live in Miami and do Miami things that make for an easy target. I'm not going to doubt that. But there are certain moments where
What does
Miami
Minnesota have? Got the mall. They got an Orange Julius. I mean, what do they got?
Not Messi. Not Messi.
real Midwestern character, not, glitz and glamour. Everyone's in an open top Mercedes-Benz on South Beach or something like that.
They're just jealous they don't have Leo Messi. Like, that's all it is, Woody. I mean, these teams
Fair
are
enough.
upset because Inter Miami is getting attention. Inter Miami gets allowed to go play the FIFA Club World Cup while Minnesota gets to cheer about a 4-1 victory over a team that is injured and didn't even have half their squad.
Sorry, Messi wanted to come down and enjoy Prime 112 in the ocean and didn't feel like going up to a Ruby Tuesday at the Mall of America and enjoy the Great Lakes, which we laugh at the Great Lakes. Yeah, come check out an ocean once in a while there, Minnesota.
This is not where I meant for this to go, but I'm waiting for you to talk about. I'm waiting for you to talk about the orange chicken samplers at the Mall of Americas.
Well, those are good, and I would never denigrate the free chicken at the bourbon chicken place. That they've got over us. Chris Wittyngham, he will be on the call Saturday. Atlanta United against Philadelphia on MLS Season Pass, 7:30. And again, Inter Miami back in action Sunday night. They host Orlando City at Chase Stadium. Kickoff is 7 p.m. on Apple TV. Thank you, Witty.
Thanks, guys.